Hi, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Hello, welcome to the Amateur Television Network's The Weekly Net. Featuring today is World Amateur Radio Day. How exciting is that? And it's actually today, April 18th, 2023. I'm Roland, KC6JPG. Your net control tonight here, Rancho Cucamonga, California. The Amateur Television Network is a series of repeaters making it possible for you, our amateur television and YouTube superstars, to make video communications with one another within the network coverage areas of our repeaters and our chapter stations throughout the country and the world. You can watch us globally on YouTube, youtube.com/amateur television network. And yes, we are on YouTube as we speak, which is very exciting. Don't have any RF equipment to get into our repeater systems, but love to check in with us. Have no fear. Just go to our Whereby channel. We have a wonderful group. Right screen. And now, wave to everybody out there on RF. There you guys are. Beautiful. I'll tell you, you guys are looking great. That's our Whereby group, our online community, ready to check in as we are going to be commencing World Amateur Radio Day tonight. All right, for more information about the Amateur Television Network, how our repeaters are functioning, and how to get on amateur television, hey, just go to our website, www.atn-tv.com, www.atn-tv.com. Also, we are global on DMR radio. And I got DMR radio all plugged in and right into my hotspot. So 3196 on the Brandmeister network. 3196, that's the Amateur Television Network on the Brandmeister system. This portion of this net is a directed net, and transmissions may be made after acknowledgement by net control, and a clear frequency is always appreciated. All right, like I said, we're going to have a full house today. It's going to be all about you guys, and we're going to go right into check-ins after we take a brief pause for any priority traffic. KC6JPG, your net control tonight. All right, not hearing any priority traffic. We're going to go right into check-ins, and we're going to go to RF. We're going to start with Mount Wilson. Mount Wilson check-ins come in at this time. We're going to start with Bob, N6AZV. Bob, come on in. Tell us about how did you get started in amateur radio and, of course, amateur television and your experience back in the 80s and 90s as our net control operator back then. KC6JPG.
Well, if you can see and hear me, this is Bob, N6AZV. Well, with TV, it started with Tom O'Hara, and I bought some of his nice analog equipment and was on the air on ATV quite a long time ago. My first amateur radio license was KN0 HNH in Nebraska, and I got that in about 1959. And I still have one of my old QSL cards. Can anybody see that? Anyway, that's one of my old QSL cards from the 1950s. Anyhow.
N6AZV, KC6JPG. Well, very good, Bob. Well, that is really cool. We saw the QSL card. That's awesome. That's awesome that Tom O'Hara got you started in the television side of amateur radio. And we just definitely thank you very, very much for all the service that you have done being our net control operator throughout the 80s and 90s. We really, really appreciate it. Very good. Thank you so much, my friend. WA6EJO, Steve in Ventura. Steve, how about you? How'd you get started in amateur television and amateur radio in general? KC6JPG, net control.
WA6EJO in Ventura. Yeah, I don't really remember how I got started in ham radio. It was just a little after high school. I was always interested in such things. And for ATV, I blame that on Rod, WB9KMO. He got me interested in that. And so there. That's about it from snowy Ventura, WA6EJ.
WA6EJO, KC6JPG. I love it how our amateur television operators, especially the ones that have been here for many, many years, influences other people to become amateur television operators as well. Steve, thank you so much for all your contributions, especially at Oat Mountain. We really, really appreciate it. I did turn on the links, but I'm not seeing people popping up. So, I'm crossing my fingers. I'll try it again momentarily. Oh, very good. Anyone else on Mount Wilson that like to check out? Actually, yes, I do have another person at Mount Wilson, and that's, of course, Ron. KD6NIZ. Ron, how you doing tonight?
KD6NIZ in Arcadia. Well, looks like it's working. Enjoying the weather. So, back to you guys. This is KD6NIZ.
KD6NIZ, KC6JPG. Well, very good. Yeah, I'll tell you, being nestled against the mountains, we're definitely experiencing that nice, cool, early May gray weather. And especially here at Rancho Cucamonga, it rained today, this morning. The ground was wet. And this is April. Go figure. Well, guess what? The Mayflowers are definitely going to be coming out. The super bloom, I think, is going to be happening this year. Ron, thank you very much for checking in. Anyone else on Mount Wilson that'd like to check in with the Amateur Television Networks celebrating World Amateur Radio Day? KC6JPG, Net Control, come on in.
This is KO6E in Pacific Palisades. I'll just check to make sure I've got audio and I'm not doubling with anybody, and then I'll tell you my life story.
KO6E, KC6JPG. Merv, it's great to see you, my friend. And yes, you have audio, and woo, you have audio. So come on back. We'd love to hear about how you got started in amateur radio and the influence on how you got started on amateur television. Back to you, KC6JPG, Net Control.
Well, I got interested in amateur radio first in junior high school, and my teacher asked me to help him build a 6-meter radio-controlled airplane set. Then in high school, we had a beautiful ham radio station, W9 Apples, Nuts, and Onions, with a complete Collins rig. And I learned a lot about ham radio and building equipment in high school. Then I moved out to California. In the 50s, I was primarily active on 10 meters, and I worked, I got a DXCC for 100 countries, and I got worked all states on 10 meters. When I came out to California in 1964, I don't know how I got interested in it, but I got interested first in ham television, and I had a bunch of very loud 24-volt equipment, military surplus, and got on television with a few other guys. Most of us were using tail-end Charlies on the 400 megahertz band. And then I got active in the satellite program, very active in satellites, and I was one of the first people to get a worked all states through satellites. I've been on television ever since, on and off, not all that active, and I'm waiting for 10 meters to come back to get active on that. So I think that pretty much is my life story. Always open to questions. KO6E.
KO6E, KC6JPG. Well, very good, Merv. Well, love that life story. And wow, what a history, too. And thank you very much for all your contribution. And I just like to say, I say praise to your teacher that influenced you on the amateur radio spectrum. So that's awesome. Thank you very much for sharing your story. Anyone else on Mount Wilson that'd like to share their story for Amateur Radio Field Day, World Amateur Radio Field Day, or World Amateur Radio Day, which is today? Come and share your story. KC6JPG, Net Control. Okay, we're going to go to Snow Peak this time, serving the Palm Springs area and the high desert where Yucca Valley is residing at. And we're going to start with Earl and Julie. KJ, oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fade. Happy 61 birthday, Roland. KJ6DQR and KJ6FYY. Earl, Julie, come on in and share us your story. KC6JPG, Net Control. KJ6DQR, KJ6FYY, KC6JPG. Unfortunately, I think the link is still having a major problem going from Snow to Santiago Peak. It was really breaking up. If you can, go to Plan B. If we can go to Whereby, we would love to hear your story because for the bits and pieces that I got from your audio, it is a fascinating story. You got to come on Whereby and tell us. All right, we're going to go to Yucca Valley, and we're going to go to Keith, N6GKB via the online community. Keith, it's great to see you, my friend. How you doing tonight?
Hello. Yep. I won't try Snow Peak because if Earl ain't making it, I ain't making it. Yeah, let's see. Long story short, I guess. My brother and me shared a bedroom when he was in the Air Force back in the day, and I was a young little guy. And me being the curious little guy and watching him play with his ham radios all the time, as soon as he left in the Air Force and all that stuff was left in our shared bedroom, this little guy got in there and played with all of it and turned all the knobs and pushed all the buttons. And yeah, he comes home and he goes, "What the heck?" Yeah, well, what can I say? Anyhow, so I grew up around ham radio with him all these years, and it hasn't stopped since. So yeah, when I got old enough to really understand what all of it was about, he, kept pushing me to get my license, which didn't happen till, what was it, 1990? Something like that. Guy, it was ridiculous. But Yeah, finally got my butt together and took the test and got a license and everything was good after that. And I pushed basically on my own trying to get stuff done and went back to him back and forth once in a while. But then he decided to take me to one of the ham conventions and way up in this hotel room, they had some ATV equipment set up where I met Roland and a few other hams, and I'm like, what is this TV? Okay, and that's when I got involved with this ever since, and that was many, many moons ago. So yeah, and here we are, still trying to make it happen, which we have. We got to usually got to I got to into Snow Peak. I got to get P5 picture. So, but we just got the link problems right now, as Roland said. So we'll keep it up, keep it working, and yeah, having fun with everything. HF. Heck, I was on today on HF on 80 meters, or no, 10 meters. It was open today for a while. And FT8 and Wolfgang, I've been looking to get in contact with your station on Whisper. I'm going to be sending out a link on tonight. Usually I hit your station or I see your station on the digital mode. So yeah, we've been like what 4 or 5 years since the last time I did that. But we're going to set it up tonight and do that again, just because I can. So anyhow, that's about it. Thanks to my brother and a few of the rest of you guys out here. Heck yeah, here we go, having fun. N6 GKB up in Yucca Valley.
And it's a GKB, KC6JPG. Well, very good, Keith. Thank you very much for sharing your story. And like I said, this is so fascinating. Not the fascinating part itself on just getting on board on amateur radio, but like I said, it's a very small niche community, which is amateur television, and it's a special community because, see, you know, prior to the introductions, let's say PC electronics, you know, transceivers, basically, and having these early transceivers, and then of course we kind of had a lull with equipment where people were getting on 2.4. People were homebrewing stuff. We were getting, you know, exciter boards, connecting to amplifiers and connecting to dishes and Yagis and all kinds of different things. It's quite incredible story. And then of course now we've got the new IC905 that's going to be a game changer for those that want to, you know, got the coin and ready to, you know, experience the amateur television wave of getting something right off the commercial shelf. So very exciting stuff. So Keith, thank you so much for sharing. We really appreciate it. All right, anyone else on Snow Peak that'd like to check in? Well, at least try to check in. I know we're having link problems, but we're going to give it a try. To check in on the Amateur Television Network's weekly net featuring World Amateur Radio Day. KC6JPG, right to you. All right, we're going to go right to Oat Mountain, and I cross my fingers. Hopefully, I did turn the link on, and hopefully it might work. So I'll cross my fingers. So, Steve, if you can, if we don't see him, if you can relay, that will be awesome, and I will check him in that way. All right, starting with Oat Mountain, KC6JPG, net control.
W6IST is checked in via WA6EJO.
WA6EJO, KC6JPG, relaying for Alan. W6IST got you checked in via relay. So we got you checked in, my friend. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate all of your efforts, and especially during the days of when amateur television was becoming blossoming during the 80s when repeaters were coming up. So really cool. Thank you, Alan. All right, standing by for Oat Mountain check-ins. How about Bob, W6KGE in Simi Valley? hopefully you'll be able to check in, and then Steve will relay. KC6JPG, net control.
I don't know if you got any of that. IST's checked in with video this time, and I copied that he was first licensed in 1953. Otherwise, it's the 3 gigahertz link from there is a little noisy, but it's looking good. WA6EJO.
WA6EJO, KC6JPG. Well, very, very good. Well, I'm glad you're able to see video and able to check in, Bob. So, and as well as Alan. So thank you very much for checking them in. All right. Anyone else on Oat Mountain that'd like to check in? And Steve will relay for you, because unfortunately we're not able to see the link from Oat Mountain from Santiago Peak. KC6JPG, net control, standing by for Oat Mountain check-ins.
Well, I don't really have anything new to report. I know I saw Bob earlier, where I'm getting mostly blue screens, and that's about it. WA6EJO.
Oh, WA6EJO, KC6JPG. Well, very good, Steve. Thank you so much for relaying, Bob and Alan. We really, really appreciate it. And we miss you guys, and pretty soon we'll be getting back up on the hill, and we'll get everything repaired up. It's going to take about pretty much 2 to 3 full days to get things repaired up at Santiago. It's a lot of damage that was done with all the rime ice that happened during the during the storms that we had. Incredible, incredible weather. All right, we're going to go right to Santiago Peak, and we're going to start with our buddy Gordo, WB6 NOA Costa Mesa.
And a very good evening.
WB6 NOA KC6JPG. Gordo, I pretty much got 5 words from your preamble, and then unfortunately the QRM on our audio subcarrier wiped you out on the audio side, and we saw you on the video side. I was talking with Mike, WA6SVT, as well as Tom Board, WB6HYH, as well as Earl, KJ6DQR. I personally have a HV320 in my Go kit, digital, that's already programmed up for 434. And what I want to do is make an appointment with you and donate this to you. And it'll be my privilege and my pleasure to donate the 434 digital DVB-T, so you can come on in and look at your very best like you do at Ham Nation every time. So, Gordo, thank you very much for checking in. All right. Well, I like to check in Mike K6LDK over in Valencia, and that's over in the snow in the Oak Mountain area. I wanted to get in Gordo first because I know he had a net coming up very quickly for the Coast Guard net. So, Mike, it's great to see you tonight, my friend. How's everything going tonight?
We're doing pretty good here. Still breathing in and out, doing two of the most important things in life. That is stay vertical and take nourishment. Other than that, we're doing fine. Everybody's looking good. We're still working on my RF thing here. I got more problems with that than I ever thought I would have. And the water got into my microwave and kind of screwed that up a bit. So we got to dry that out. Anyhow, that's all we got here. Back to you, Roland. And everybody have a good rest of the day and a good week ahead of you. K6LDK, still in Valencia.
K6LDK, KC6JPG. Well, very good, Mike. Thank you very much for checking in. It's always great to see you. Yes, being vertical, that's omnidirectional, and that's a good thing. Sometimes horizontal is to be a beam, and we can only be selective on that one. But in vertical, oh yeah, we can go everywhere. That's awesome. Very good, Mike. Thank you very, very much for checking in tonight. We really appreciate it. All right, back to Santiago Peak, and let's. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna turn on 2.4. I'm gonna be really ratty, but we're gonna check in Don. KD6 OMV. Don, as soon as you see the ratty signal going back, well, actually, you can probably go right over me. So once you see the ratty signal, try and transmit, and we'll get Tom in there too. So KD6 OMV, KC6 JPG, here we go. Turning on the 2.4 link. Stand by. Stand by.
There I am. Yeah, it's the signal is a little iffy. I don't know whether you can hear me, but the audio is not coming back to me at my station, even though I can see myself, but it's lined up pretty good. I'll turn it back to you for a minute and see how much of this you're getting, Roland. 86 OMV. Yeah, I saw Tom in there, but I didn't hear his audio either. So.
Okay. Your audio sounds 100%, Norm. Go ahead.
All right. Well, then I'll continue. Yeah, this is Norm, KD6 OMVO in Riverside. My earliest recollection of ham radio was probably about 1951. At that time, there was a ham radio operator down the block from me, and he would get on at night and do Morse code, and it would absolutely tear up the Hoffman black and white TV I had, and I was very upset with him over that. But as time progressed, I went ahead and bumped into amateur radio here and there. My grandfather took me camping one time, and a fellow pulled in with an Airstream trailer and threw up an antenna in the trees, and I heard him in his Airstream sitting there banging out code. And so I've always been involved in electrical and electronics from my earliest days. I always thought that eventually I'd gravitate towards ham radio, but I kept putting it on the back burner because I had to learn the code to be able to get into ham radio, and it just seemed like I never found the time. So finally, fast forward to about 1992, when my brother Ron and I both went and got our amateur radio licenses, and I joined Ontario Races, and they had some ATV equipment, and it wasn't being used, and so I got on the air and I tried it out. And wouldn't you know, Dave came back. So Dave Couch, he was the one that sort of introduced me to ATN and other amateur television operators, including Mark. And then I would go to the amateur radio swap meets, and they were frequented by Mark a lot of the time, and I'd run into him and strike up a conversation with him, and he was giving away those I guess you call it barbecue grill reflectors for amateur television, or it could be used for repurposing for amateur television. And then I met Mike and other guys around that same time in the early 90s. And here I am today. You know, I've got, HF, EHF, UHF, amateur television, expanded into a lot of different ham radio stuff. And then there was a point there where I was between jobs, and Mark introduced me to working for the state. So now I work for the state. I worked with telecommunications for the state now for about 14 years. And thinking about retiring finally. But yeah, I've been in electronics my whole life, and amateur television since the early 90s. So anyway, I'll give Tom a shot at this, and I'll go ahead and back out of here. This is Norm, 86 OMV in Riverside. Back to Roland.
Well, I'm going to pick it up instead of Roland, because I know it's messing him up. But anyhow, let's see. I'll give you my life story as far as ham radio goes. It all started with, let me grab this other camera here and show you this radio right here was our father, Keith and my father's radio that he used to listen to all the time. And when he wasn't listening to it, I would run in there and grab it and turn it on, figured out how to operate it. And it was a shortwave radio, you know, covered like broadcast to 30 megahertz AM broadcast. And then I found out that just below just below the AM broadcast band back in those days, this is early 60s, you could pick up the LAPD. LAPD was down below the AM broadcast band. So that was a lot of fun. I used to listen to them a lot. Then I started listening around in the shortwave, hearing some broadcasting in the shortwave bands. And every once in a while I came across two guys just chewing the rag, you know, just talking and chatting with each other. Wasn't sure what that was about. And eventually I found out that they were ham radio operators. I didn't know what ham radio was, but kind of started listening around and picking up, I just pick up foreign broadcasts, and every once in a while I pick up some of these guys talking from around the world, different places. Thought that was quite interesting. So it was about my, sophomore year of high school, or maybe it was my junior, don't really remember. But found out that they had the radio shop class in school there, had a ham radio station set up there. And in fact, let me clear some of this stuff away here. I just happened to have here on my desk another radio, which was the receiver that they had in the high school class. A good old SX101A, and this one is in almost new condition. I got it from a subordinate of mine when I was supervisor of precision assembly at my job, and one of the guys that worked in there got his ham license. I talked to him. Somebody else gave him this radio. Well, he decided after I moved on and he was moving on, and he was going to go to Indiana, I think it was. And he didn't want to carry this big old clunker with him, so he brought it to my house and dropped it off for me. And I couldn't believe it. It had the original Helicrafters tube still in it. It was in the shipping box from Helicrafters. It said Helicrafters on the outside, and it looked like it's almost brand new. So every once in a while I turn it on and listen to it. It does have kind of a mellow tone to it, really nice. So without making this too long, in high school, I think it was my junior year, I got my novice license. The radio class teacher was teaching us the Morse code on records. Yeah, we had the records that played Morse code, and to make it go faster, you went from 45 to 78, and, you know, and so with the record speed. And we learned the Morse code, learned enough of electronics to pass the novice exam, and then shortly after that got my general license when I went into the Air Force. And like my brother was saying there, I went in the Air Force, left all my radio equipment there at the house, and where I grew up in Pico Rivera. And then I was always an HF person. I never got on the VHF, UHF until, I don't know, it was like, I got my license in '63, my novice license. And it was probably at least in the 80s, maybe late 70s. But I bought some old surplus equipment for 2 meters and started playing with that, converting it over from commercial to in the ham band. They were all crystal control. And so I bought some crystals and was able to talk to at least 1 or 2 repeaters locally here. Got into that a little bit, but mostly HF. I always enjoyed HF. And then from there, I went to, I got my general, and then while I was in the Air Force, I got my advanced class license. And the way I got into ATV was through my brother. He met this guy out there in the desert that was working out there at the time, I think around the Palm Springs area. His name was Mike, call sign WA6SVT. And he was telling me about him all the time, and I guess telling him about me all the time. And finally, I think it was my brother told me, hey, this Mike guy, I'd like to meet you, you know. And so I went over and went out there to the desert and met Mike, and that's all it took. Before I knew it, I was in amateur television. And then he got me some equipment, I think it was, and we got on, and gosh, that's been about 12, 15 years ago, I don't know, it was a long time ago. And before I knew it, I became president for a short time there. Then got away from that, but still got on ATV. Kind of been on ATV ever since. Got the equipment, and if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. At least I try to. And so eventually I got to the point where, you know, good old rocking chair Dave, bless him, we were kind of a battling between who was king of the mountain for 2.4 gigs here, FM. And I have to say, once he moved away, I had to upgrade to make sure I stay at this point, I hope. Anyways, Mike convinced me to put a 6-foot dish up on the mountain. I'm running 50 watts down here, transmitter up to the antenna. And usually, I don't have too bad of a picture. Like, it looks like it's doing fairly good today, even with just a whoop inside of the where the repeater's at, from what I understand. So, yeah, even though it's not the best conditions, and that's why Norm's having a little difficulty there, he doesn't have a dish like mine. But at least we're still getting in there, and That's pretty much my story. I could go on for hours telling you a lot of other stuff, but we won't take that. I think I'm taking too long now. So anyways, Roland, go ahead and shut down 2.4 and go ahead and take the net back. This is Tom, again, president of the Amateur Television Network, WB6HYH in Rancho Cucamonga. Take it away, Roland.
KD6OMV and KWB6HYH. Thank you guys very, very much for checking in with us tonight. I'll tell you, Tom, what a great, great story. What a great story. Thank you very much for sharing all of that. And Don, thank you for sharing yours. Your audio was great as well. So, like I said, that temporary 2.4 antenna is on top of a rack right now. So, and so you two getting in there was absolutely quite a miracle, considering that what the damage has been done over up on Santiago. So we got you all checked in and recorded tonight. So, and on YouTube tonight as well. So, thank you guys for sharing your story. And Tom, thank you for serving as our president. This is going to be a great, great year, a great, great term. And I feel very positive that we're going to have a lot of fun. Definitely, we got DATV QSO party coming up. We're going to be making some presentations at some ham clubs, and getting some new displays happening and updating a lot of things. And of course, the most important thing is to get up to the mountaintops and getting the repeaters back to what we call normalcy once again. And with the help of Mike and everyone, and Gary and myself and everyone on the team, we're gonna get her done, as they say. So Don, Mike, Don, and Tom, thank you so much for checking in. All right, we're gonna go right over to Running Springs, and that's where our buddy Gary is at. W6KVC. Gary, how are you doing tonight? And how did you get started, my friend?
Okay, I got started, back in about 1954, 55, in basic, my owner owned a little radio and television shop, so I learned all my electronics and basics back then, and all the way through school. Didn't get my ham license because code was very hard. So anyway, when I graduated from high school in 1961, I wanted to go, work in television, and whatever. So I went to Ogden School of Electronics in 1962, got my FCC commercial first class license, because you had to have a first class license, still not a ham yet, and whatever. So then I went back to Idaho, and transmitter operator engineer for Channel 7 KTVB in Boise, Idaho. And, a couple of the other technicians and the engineers were all ham radio operators. And I said, I want to get my ham license, but you had to learn the code. So May, I think it was 11th, 1963, I finally got my code speed up to 13 words a minute. Passed my conditional at that time, because you had to go to Portland. So anyway, I got a conditional, which is the same as a general. Did my 13 words a minute, got my ham license. Well, 1963. So I had my commercial license first, was working in broadcasting, but I wasn't into television yet. But anyway, but I was, I was working in commercial television and whatever, but I was interested, in ham television. There was pieces and parts of it. Then in 1960, I got married to California and left, the television station and went into Land Mobile, went to work for RCA down here. Still not into television, but in 1963, when I got my ham license, I was K7YKF, and I'm going to show you the radio that I made the first contact on. Here it is. I still have it. This is a 80-meter crystal controlled transceiver. It was It's called a BLM radio. And so the chief engineer loaned me this radio to make, because I didn't have any radio equipment, to get on the air on HF. So this is my first contact when I got my ham license. And it puts out a total of 5 watts. It's all tube. And I still got it. Once in a while I turn it on. It kind of hums a little bit. Capacitors are right out. CW, HF, 80 meter radio. Transmitter, you had to plug crystals in on whatever frequency you want. And of course, tunable VFO, for receive. So there it is. That's the radio I made the first contact. Okay, as we go on, HF, then, some 2 meter throughout, still not into television, and several, jobs. Anyway, I came up on the mountain in about 1981. Still, Gary Layton and I were running a 2-way radio shop together, working in Land Mobile, and we decided to go to a TRW swap meet. And I think we met up with Tom O'Hara. He was selling PC electronic boards and cards, for amateur television. Hey, this is cool. Then he told us about Mike Collis. Well, anyway, there was going to be a meet here, all about amateur television. I think we bought some boards from Tom to build our television stuff. And this was about 1985. Well, anyway, I met up with Mike Collis, and I seen the thumbnail there a little bit ago. So anyway, eventually Gary and I hired Mike Collis, to work for us. And then, since I had connections or whatever, we put the repeater on Santiago Peak, which I had connections with the owner where we're at on Santiago Peak. And so his name was Jack Reichler. So we put the first repeater was on Mount Wilson, and it wasn't working right. And so actually, Peter, and so we went up and got it, and we moved it over to Santiago Peak. Of course, it pissed off, the guy that was in the television station up there on Mount Wilson. But anyway, so we put it on Santiago Peak, and it's been there ever since, upgraded. So I've been in amateur television ever since about 1985, and as all the progresses and everything goes. So when I moved to California, I was K7YKF. So I was bombed out in 1960. I knew, but you had to change your license, to a 6 call. So I knew I was going to get a 2x3, like a KB6 or something like that. And when I sent in for renewal, because I was K7, the FCC sent me back W6 KVC. And I thought the FCC had messed up for sure. I couldn't believe it. So I've been W6 KVC since 1968. I'm an amateur extra and whatever. So my call, I didn't ask for it, but I'll take it with me when I become a silent key. Somebody else will get it later someday. So I've been W6 KVC since 1968. So back to you, Roland, W6 KVC.
W6KVC, KC6JPG. Well, very good, Gary. Thank you very, very much for sharing your story. And wow, thank you so much for sharing that beautiful radio of yours. Congratulations. On 80 meters on that. That's a special memento of your legacy. And we definitely appreciate that. Appreciate all the years you have done on television, being a television engineer, satellite engineer. And of course, getting hooked up with Mike Collis, and you guys becoming the best of friends. And look what you guys done. You definitely started a legacy and the Amateur Television Network. So, wow, great story. Thank you very much for sharing, and thank you for all your contributions and continuing with your contributions. Awesome job, my friend. All right. Anyone else on Santiago Peak that'd like to try to check in? Come in at this time. KC6JPG, Net Control. All right, we go to Job's Peak this time, serving the Inland Empire in the high desert area of Southern California. Job's Peak check-ins come in at this time and like to share your amateur radio story for World Amateur Radio Day. KC6 JPG, net control. All right, just checking to see if there are Santa Barbara check-ins. Santa Barbara, come in at this time. KC6 JPG, net control. All right, we go to our chapter stations now, and we're going to head over to North Carolina, and that's where John is residing over in Mooresville, AF7PA. John, it's great to see you tonight. How you doing, my friend?
Well, it's good to be seen. We've got pretty good weather over here, 58 and clear. I'm the oldest newbie at this. Oldest in years, I think, and youngest with a license. I built my first crystal set in 1950, but I didn't end up with a license till 2005. I worked for a lot of computer companies, telephone companies. I did a lot of troubleshooting. I retired 5 times starting in the year 2000, and I finally got it done in 2015, 2016, somewhere in there. And things were going too good in Arizona, so I came out here to North Carolina, and I can't get up over the mountains, and I can't get up over the trees. Somewhere I didn't listen to these guys. They climbed up the mountains and broadcast downhill. I got it wrong. But I hold my own in the ice cream and cookie nights. And we have a radio thing called DMR, which is quite interesting. You haven't seen that yet tonight, but anyway, I plan on hanging around and watching this green grass grow until I figure out how to get over the trees. So AF7PA, back to net.
AF7PA, KC6JPG. Well, very good, John. Thank you very much for sharing your story. And I'll tell you, watching these screens for amateur television, you never know what's coming up next. And that's the most exciting part about it. So thank you very much for checking in. Thumbs up to you, my friend. Great job tonight. All right, we're going to go to New York this time, and that's where our buddy Manuel is at, M2MJF. Manuel, how'd you get started on amateur radio and the discovery of amateur television?
Well, in New York City, you could get everything. When I used to go to Radio Shack all the time because I started playing with the 40-channel handheld CB radios they have, the walkie-talkies. I used to do security, and I used to talk all over the neighborhood with the handheld devices. After that, I see the Gordon West ham radio books, and I said, well, let me give it a crack, get the ham radio license. But I started upgrading when I got in the U.S. military. Started getting general class, advanced. I'm still an advanced class ham operator. Now today I'm using SDR in a laptop computer to get to use it for microwave ham radio. My SDR you mostly use also to listen to the police department. There's been a lot of action lately tonight, and it's you could do if you live in a city. I usually call it the cheap and easy way of doing something. You know, you use one of these to link all around the world. I use Open Spot 4. That's the way I cheat on on DMR. and I used a Pluto SDR to transmit on the microwave bands. So I give it back to you, Roland.
And to MJF KC6JPG. Well, very good, Manuel. Thank you very much for checking in. Thank you very much for sharing your story on how you got on board and the discovery of amateur television. And we're glad to have you with us. That's awesome. Thank you very much, my friend. Always great to hear you on DMR, too. It's so great. We're going to go to Florida now, and we're going to check in to our net control over there at the Florida Systems, or the Florida chapter, and that's our buddy Wolfgang. KV4, ATV. Wolf, how you doing tonight?
Doing good. Y'all got my audio? Is that okay?
Well, audio is kind of weak, my friend, so if you bring the mic a little bit closer, that will be awesome. Back to you.
All right. Sorry about that. It's going to be a little different. I'm going to have to point it up. But anyway, I got started in ham radio and stuff back when my dad introduced me to it. Hoping my audio is a lot better right now. Anyway, that was back in 1966, as he was a Mars operator for the U.S. Army and stuff. And then by 68, I had my license and was hanging around the Mars station at Fort Rucker, and they were running phone patches stuff from Fort Rucker to Da Nang and Saigon. So anyhow, I jumped in on that on the Collins KWM-2As, and we got to running those things. And I kept going up on it and stuff until I kept advancing and stuff. And then later over there, I got into the in and out of the Navy, and then got over into Germany over in the 1990s, and wound up with the Army Mars over there, and wound up as the assistant director of Army Mars. And at that time, I got hired on and was working for Trans World Radio, the television station over there. It's a large Christian broadcast television station. So once I learned more about commercial television broadcasting, and we had it stuff for ham radio and stuff, that is what got me into doing the PAL format of ATV and stuff over in Germany. Did a lot of satellite communications, talking to Discovery and stuff. And anyway, we just kind of kept going from there. And then I got back over here and wound up with the Air Force Mars there for a year and a half. Wound up as the national PIO, the Public Information Officer for the Air Force Mars for a year and a half, almost 2 years. And now I've kind of laid off of that to do more for ATV and stuff. And I'm still with the Shares Network, which is run by the Department of Homeland Security. But my big focus and stuff since 86, 88 and stuff has been into meteorology, which I'm now a junior meteorologist, and I'm now working with the Tallahassee National Weather Service. And we've got the new system, the three-dimensional radar, which I'm able to track anything across the United States and actually see, as I showed you last week in the background over here, which you can't hardly see right now. I can actually see a tornado developing in 3D and stuff, and track it where it's going, ground speed and everything. Now the 4th of next month, which will be a Thursday, I'm hoping Ron, KK4YZE, will be joining me. Him and Tim Bentley, he's another ham, and we are going to Tallahassee, which I will be over there and take Ron and Tim and introduce them to the rest of the crew that I work with in the National Weather Service in Tallahassee in their booth. And we actually get to meet with the boys from the aircrafts and stuff. We are going to get to board and get photos and videos and stuff of the Orion and the Hercules. The three of us are going to be aboard the Hurricane Hunter aircrafts for the Hurricane Awareness Project. So that's what we've got coming up. So me and Ron and Tim are going to be covering the Hurricane Hunters and stuff at the beginning of this next month. And we shall be getting back with you there, Roland. So that's about all I've got right now. Those are the storm chasing and running Hurricane Hunters and National Weather Service and the Miami Hurricane Center. That's about all I got for you right now, Roland. KB4ATV, Panama City, Bay County, Florida, Skywarn.
KB4ATV, KC6JPG. Well, very good, Wolf. Thank you very much for sharing your story and your involvement with, with Mars and of course the National Weather Service and of course tracking all those storms that you definitely experienced down there in the South. And we appreciate all your service. So thank you very much for sharing, and thank you very much for being a part of our ATV family and ATV community. Appreciate it, my friend. Great job. Great job. Continuing on with our Florida chapter, we're going to go to Ron over there in Panama City, KK4YZE. Ron, it's great to see you tonight, my friend. You're looking very, very well. How you doing tonight, and how'd you get started, my friend?
I can't turn my mic on.
Oh, your mic is fine, bud. I can hear you fine.
Oh, you can?
Oh, yeah, perfectly. Sounding great.
All right, because it's not switching on the screen. Anyway, I got started about a few years before the hurricane came in. Get involved with, I was retired military and I wanted to do a lot more things with survival and everything. So ham radio was a great thing, and I met working at church. He helped inspire me to get involved with that. And then he also helped me get inspired with a lot of the weather training. So whenever he gets involved in something, he says, "Come on, Ron, let's go do this." So it's kind of hard to keep up with him. I'm kind of like his little puppy dog sometimes. But anybody would have a challenging time trying to keep up with both games. But I was first exposed to ham radio with my late mother's husband, who was in the Navy. And I remember when I would go home in the 90s on leave, and I would go up to the very top of the house, the attic, and there was my mother's husband with all kinds of machines with tubes in them. And he was talking to people over in England and Europe and Russia, and just having a grand old time. And I know he had a 4 or 5 digit code that started with an N. But he's up in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. But he is not able to do it anymore. He still has his license. And because of where he's living in a retirement community, he's not allowed to have any antennas. So he's grateful for when he can get out and be with a ham radio person, but he still keeps his updated. So maybe someday he'll be able to be in a place where he can have his. So my ultimate goal anyway is to get my amateur extra, which is going to be probably another year because I'm still trying to get my house taken care of. But that's about my story. I know the value of the ham radio, and we've seen it here in Panama City, Bay County, in Florida, how valuable it is to get communications out that nothing else can do. So with that, this is KK4YZE, back to everybody on the net. Thank you, Roland.
KK4YZE, KC6JPG. Ron, wow. And you're exactly right. When everything else fails, amateur radio will prevail. And you definitely showed that during Hurricane Michael and all things happening over there in the South, and especially in the Florida area. So when you, Wolf, and Dave, everybody else within your group, great job. And we really appreciate all of your efforts. Thank you for your service, my friend. We really appreciate you. Salute to you. Well done. Thank you. All right, we're going to be going to Arizona. And that's where our buddy Lee is at. Well, actually, Lee is actually in North Carolina. So, but he represents Arizona. So we're going to go to him. K0CCU, KC6JPG. How'd you get started, Lee? Right to you.
Well, I got started when I was about in the 7th grade in junior high school. And my shop teacher was a ham, W0 David Peter Baker, Jerry Gerard, and he talked to us and said, if you bring your lunch, I'll take you over to my house and show you a ham radio. So we did, and we went over, and he talked to um, Australia and New Zealand on 10 meters, 10 or 15, I don't remember which, but and you know, I was already a shortwave listener, and so I got my novice ticket in 1954, and in 1955 I upgraded to conditional class. Um, Gary only had to do 13 words a minute, but they didn't have VEs in those days. But the club members could give you the conditional class. I was over 75 miles from an airline miles from a testing center in Minneapolis, and so I got the conditional, and they made us do 18 words a minute. To just make sure we would pass the 13 words a minute, and both transmit and receiving. And so I did pass that. And then the FCC did me a favor, and a few years later, they grandfathered conditional classes into general class and did away with the conditional. And so they grandfathered us. And then one day, my boss, I was studying to upgrade to advanced, and I was about to, I was working for AT&T, and I was going to Kansas City and going to school down there, and I was going to go over to the FCC there and take the exam. And one day my boss called me and said, hey, the FCC's here in Des Moines, Iowa, right now. Get up here and take your advanced class license. Of course, you didn't have to have code, and so I went up and, you know, did the advanced class license and got it, and I've been an advanced class license ever since. Got into mostly I did HF up in Iowa, and then on 2 meters, and also did 2 meters, and belonged to different clubs up there and so forth. And then when I moved to Arizona, I used to listen to one of the ATV groups here in the Phoenix area. It was the other group, not the ATN group, but it was the other group, the AATV or something like that, whatever they were. And they would do the space shuttle. They would broadcast the space shuttle flights and stuff on ATV. And then one day in about 2000, and I don't know what it was, the net control for that club conned me into getting on ATV with him, and eventually I got stuck with the being the other club's net control, and then W8ARZ was over with the ATN group, and we decided that, hey, why do two of these groups a half an hour apart on the same days? Why don't we just join them together? And so I ended up coming over to ATN and with Bob Silent Key W8ARZ, and started doing off and on. He and I would alternate being net control. And then he was always going to rearrange his station and get back in being net control. And he became a silent key before he got that done. So I've been doing the Arizona ATN. We call it the ice cream social on Sunday night because usually we have different flavors of ice cream. So anyway, that's about it. I've been here in Arizona for 32 years, so had a lot, met WA6 SVT and folks from California, and been over there at least once, maybe, I don't know, once or twice to the W6 ATN annual meeting. And I think I went over there once with Rod, WA9 KMO. And so that's about it from here. I'm here in Graham, North Carolina. Outside of Raleigh and Durham, outside of Duke, and also outside of Chapel Hill. I think that's where UNC is at. I don't remember. Anyway, in their new home, and I'll have to get my phone up and show you pictures of the place I'm at. No antennas around here, but that's okay. It's a beautiful home, and we're having a great time here visiting with these friends. And we've been here a week now, and so we'll probably have another 3 weeks or so before we head back to the warm country. Well, it's not too bad. I think it's about 60 degrees here right now in the part of North Carolina I'm in. So, okay, that should be about it for me, Roland. So back to you. KC6JPG, K0CCU in Graham, North Carolina.
K0CCU, KC6JPG, representing the Arizona Amateur Television Network, and of course over there in Graham, North Carolina, visiting and having a lot of fun. Well, Lee, thank you again, my friend. Great job. Thank you so much. We're going to go to Northern California. The man himself that runs the Mount Diablo Amateur Television Group, and just had their net earlier today. And of course, they have their net on Thursday, each and every Thursday evening at 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And that's Jim, K6SOE. Jim, it's great to see you. And boy, I'm curious, and as we're all curious, how did you get started? And especially amateur television. Right to you.
Get started at All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Let's see. To make it real quick, I was exposed to ham radio in high school. Started studying for my license there, and got distracted because Morse code just wasn't sinking into my head. That was a definite prerequisite. So fast forward to 1991. When
Roland, mute
no
Santiago.
Was instigated, and got my no code tech license, and that was after I had a crazy neighbor of mine, N6PMF, come by and start sticking antennas on my roof trying to receive ham radio TV. So I was exposed to TV before I got my license. So by about a year or two. So other than that, I got my ticket in 91. Fast forward, I did actually get my 5 word a minute general license, and then upgraded to a slow code extra. So I've been doing ATV since 1991, back when we had analog, and we've slowly brought the repeater system up here to digital mode, DVB-S and DVB-S2. And other than that, we'll just turn it back to net and say 7-3, and it's great hearing everybody's story tonight. Back to net, K6SOE in the bird.
Hello. Okay. I just realized I had no audio. Hi. Okay. Jim, thank you very much for sharing your story. Thank you so much. Boy, I'm bad. I had my finger on the trigger instead of on the microphone button. Anyway, but thank you for sharing your story. That was another high school story for you. And we really appreciate your story because, I could totally relate with the code. I was kind of code dumb. And so it took me a while to, finally got up to speed until the novice class, got passed and got my novice license in 1990, and then advanced there. There you go. I was able to got on board at ATV by watching the space shuttle, but instead of watching the space shuttle, I saw a guy rocking in a chair named Dave Couch, KA6DPS, and there you go. The history was made. And I've been involved in television, and still involved in television. All right, very good. Thank you so much, Jim, for sharing your story. And guess what? Who popped in live from Las Vegas and checking out what we call the National Association of Broadcasters Convention, and that's our buddy Rod, WB9KMO. So, boy, am I curious on what's happening over there in Las Vegas and all the toys that are out there. So, Rod, give us a taste of what's happening in NAB, KC6JPG.
All right. Well, this is Las Vegas, and we just can't say everything that happens in Las Vegas. But I'll give you a few of the low points, and we can cover the high points in person. So, no, actually, having a good time here, lots of good stuff being shown. Let's see, I don't know as far as what's going on. I mean, there's everything from AI storytelling to all sorts of editing and things like that. We had the ham radio event tonight from 6 to 8, and Joel was there, Don Hill was there, Dan Bozen was there. So we were well represented, can't talk. Cheryl was there, and I was there, of course. And they had lots of drawings for prizes, and they had everybody had one ticket, but they had a cheap drawing, and then they had a big prize drawing. So on the cheap drawing, I want a book that tells me how to run digital ham radio, like DMR and things like that. But they did not include digital ATV. I was very disappointed, and I'll have to write them a nasty note. And then I won a 3CX800 iMac tube. So now I'm going to have to build or buy a big HF amplifier around it. Don Hill won one of those tubes as well. And Joe won the first prize. I can't remember what it was. He got the first thing, but that was a cheapie drawing. And guess what? Cheryl had beginner's luck and won the big first prize, which, show me the box. Where's the box? I'll hold it up for the group. Okay. It is a Yaesu VX6R. And I'm not sure what that is yet, but it's a tri-band radio, 2 meters, 220 and 432. And we're going to put it together and make a first contact with it. She doesn't have her license yet, but I can be the control operator. So she will be on the air tonight. And then last but not least, I'm resting for a couple minutes, then going down for karaoke. I will have the honor of singing karaoke on a Las Vegas stage, which isn't one of my items on a bucket list, but it's good enough to be an item on a bucket list. I don't think everybody gets a chance to do that. So anyway, lots of fun is being had. There's more convention tomorrow until 2 p.m. And so we're having a blast, and it was a really good trip for us too. Back to you. This is Rod, WB9KMO, in Las Vegas, Nevada. Oh, and the gambling I did, I doubled my money. I didn't gamble very much, though. But anyway, back to you.
WB9KMO, KC6JPG. Very good, Rod. Well, thank you very much for sharing. Cheryl, congratulations. That's a beautiful radio. Wow. I can't wait for you to make your first contact. And, of course, you got a fantastic Elmer. That's going to help you get that radio all programmed up and ready to go, making your first contact. So looking forward to it. Rod, you record her making her first contact. We want to see it on amateur television because we love, and especially, hey, and not only that, she wins it on World Amateur Radio Day. How special is that? That's awesome. Now, of course, Cheryl, you have to reciprocate. You have to grab the video camera or the phone and record Rod singing karaoke. We want to see that. We call it incidental music, by the way. especially if one of our own is doing the karaoke-ing. So that would be awesome. Very good, Rod. Thank you very much for sharing your story. You got it. Thank you so much. All right. Well, guess what? Wow, I cannot believe it's almost 9 o'clock. Wow. And like I said, it was a one jam-packed full show. We really appreciate you, but we're going to do this. Anyone out there, we're going to go back to RF, any members out there or any visitors, any ATVers out there that like the late check-in, come on in at this time. We will love to check you in. KC6JPG, Net Control. All right, any last minute comments before we take it over to our Whereby Roundtable? KC6JPG, Net Control. Well, team, I just say, wow. That was fun. That was probably one of the most fun nets ever. And just love hearing your stories. Just love sharing. And like I said, we got this recorded and archived, and it's going to be posted on YouTube with a beautiful, clean copy. Team, we really appreciate you very, very much. And we're going to go to our Whereby Roundtable immediately following after our formal portion of our net. And so we're going to go ahead and close off the formal portion that I am Roland, KC6JPG, saying without you, there would not be a net. And those were the famous words of our silent key, Bob W8ARZ, who's always well within our hearts, as well as all of our silent keys that has happened to pass on during their time. And so we definitely recognize them. The repeaters now returns for their normal use. We're going to go right back, go right into our Whereby Roundtable. For those amateurs that like to participate, come on over, whereby.com/ATN1. I'm Roland once again, KC6JPG, saying good night and thank you for watching. See you on Whereby and see you on the air. And happy Amateur Radio Day 2023. World Amateur Radio Day 2023. KC6JPG, clear.